Yeah. Thank you for doing this today. I know you're a busy man, so I appreciate that.
My pleasure. I'm not as busy as I pretend to be.
Okay, so let me grab these questions here. Okay, so Disco Bob, he's recurring, he's in and out, but we've got to admit, after season 6, we were pretty sure that Bob was a goner in this episode. Not gonna lie, we were pretty sure. What was your reaction when you first read the script?
Well, I had the same reaction you had when I heard that they were contacting me again. As a, Chicago PD wants to come do an episode, and I went, uh-oh. I was both thrilled and scared that was going to be the end of Disco Bob. But they keep bringing him to the brink, but not actually executing him. So it's, as I said, I think there's kind of one of two ways to go. Either there's a rehabilitation in order, or there's probably maybe some spectacular death scene, or possibly both. It could be both. Could be he dies heroically. That's a possibility too. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. So, and in between your appearances, do you keep up with the show, or is it more so when they call, you're like, oh, I have to catch up now?
I keep, I check, I don't watch every episode. I don't
Mhm.
watch every episode of anything.
Mhm.
But I do check in from time to time, and I've become a big fan of the show. I just think
That's
it's
great.
it's really good at maintaining the police stuff and the personal stuff, and that's a really tough line to tread. If
It
you tread
is.
a line or a path to tread, it's a fine line. Is what I'm trying to say.
Right. So were you aware of what happened in season 6, where pretty much every character's father died in the same season?
Yes, yes. And I also know in season 5, was it? I guess when, or no, 8. Wait, this is 10. I think I was in 8, and where I was in the hospital, and I said a thing that part of my money woes were because I'd given money to my daughter, and that was cut out. And I guess they did, then they brought her on, and they did the DUI with the kid, and I mean, I guess she had already appeared, but what I'm saying is they kept that storyline separate. I didn't know why, but mine is not to question why. So it was interesting to know that had happened. And I know that all these, the parents, the parents don't do well. It's kind of a tried and true, it's a great way to catapult a character into a season of angst.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. So, I mean, we saw this episode, Bob got into some serious trouble, but at the end of it, he still escaped with his life intact, his legacy, his retirement, his pension. Do you think Bob truly realizes the cost of his actions?
Well, the funny thing is that in the moment, he gets very emotional. He says, "I should have taken the bullet," and I think in that moment he means it. And then by the end of the scene, he's already, back to saying you can't bring Barella in because it's going to destroy the family name, Adam.
Mhm.
So it's, he's right back to. I don't know how much he's learned. I do think that he truly wants the best for his son,
Mhm.
and wishes that he weren't, screwing it up all the time. But there are some people for whom it's just not in the cards to do things the right way. So I don't know. Rehabilitation is always possible, especially in television.
Mhm.
But as I said, in that one scene, he goes from "I never should have done this. This is so terrible. I did this to you. I should have taken the bullet." To "No, you can't bring him in. I'm going to lose my pension." So
Yeah.
he goes kind of right back to being manipulative.
Mhm. So when you're in a recurring role like this, I'm curious what the character work is like. Is it harder to get in and out of Bob's head since this isn't a character you're with 24/7?
No, it's actually, well, yes. I mean, if you're doing it every day, then it just becomes second nature. But
Mhm.
over time, it's easier. When I like every time I come back, it's easier. I sort of know who he is more. But they've also gone from, the first time you see Bob, he's sort of railing against the semi crooked ways of Voight. And then the next time you see that he's compromised but innocent, and then the third time he's compromised and not innocent. So it's, there's been a downward trajectory for old Disco Bob, but I'm eternally grateful that it has not yet spun me into an early grave.
Bob is the last standing parent. It's
Is it
amazing.
really is the very last one?
I believe so. I mean, on Fire, if we count all of the shows, Casey's mom is still alive, but we haven't seen her since like season 1. But yeah, I think he really is.
Well, it just goes to show you can't kill disco.
Right, right,
Well,
right. So
disco is here to stay.
I love it. I love it.
Your
And so
Studio 54 channel on the Sirius XM.
I love it. That's funny. So, and that actually brings up another good point that that you mentioned is seeing the way Boyd operates and the semi crooked ways that he operates. Do you think that he might be maybe Bob feels a little bit of disappointment that Adam has gravitated more towards Hank? Do you think that's possible that Bob might feel that way?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we haven't gone there yet, but sure. I mean, anytime. Look, I mean, you know, Adam is the son who has to be the father, and Voight is the boss who's filled the vacuum. And so it's a natural thing that it happened, but it's obviously not a fun thing for any father to watch. But I mean, the people that are perpetual screw ups tend to be the same ones that are always victims of whatever happened. They're a victim of it, and so I'm sure that Bob comes up with reasons why Voight has sort of supplanted him as the father figure. But and by the way, I thought the stuff with Patty and Jason was really terrific this week. Just really, really great stuff. And when Jason wheels on him and just says he's a dog cop, and it's a great moment. And that he takes no pleasure in it, but he's just fed up. And I thought Scott Gold wrote a beautiful script, and it was and Lisa Demaine directed it beautifully. And love working with Patty. He's just such a great guy, such a good actor. And it's what can I say? It's a fun set to go back to.
Right. So, and I mean, we hardly ever see happy scenes between Bob and Adam. I actually don't think we've ever seen a happy scene between them. So do you and Patty at least get to smile and laugh between takes?
We do. I mean, Patty's work in this past episode was, in just about every scene. But yeah, I mean, I discovered that he's a singer. I did not know that before. And I'm going to have to get him to come play with our band, come sing with the band at some point, Band from TV or Action Figures, whichever one he wants to join us on. Jesse Spencer plays in the band.
I was going to say, I'm like, that's Jesse's band.
Yeah, this is Jesse's band. Jesse's a badass too. If you've ever heard him play the fiddle, you haven't lived till you've heard him play Devil Comes Down to Georgia. He's something.
That's great. Greg Grunberg is in that too, right? Keeping it in the Heroes family.
Yeah. Greg Grunberg and we've got Adrian Patstar and Bob Guinea and Scott Grimes, who's a monster. Scott, I don't know if you ever heard Scott sing, but Scott sings Freddie Mercury in the original key. Scott's a badass.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna have to go YouTube that later.
So yeah, but yes, I get to laugh, behind the scenes a little bit with Patty. He's so just the greatest guy.
That's great. So, and when you're in a recurring role like this, what is it like to have a TV son? Is he kind of like a relative that you pop in on every couple of months? Or you just like, hey, imaginary son, what's going on? Like, do you check in? What's that like when you have a TV son that you only see on a certain basis?
Well, I think the reality is he has a TV father more than I have a TV son. So yeah, I mean, look, when you're a guest and you've done 3 episodes in 10 seasons or something like that, you tread lightly. I've been number 1 on the call sheet, and I've been 21 on the call sheet, which I was this time. And you just kind of understand what your place is. But I do like to check in from time to time, see how he's doing, and just tell him that he's doing well. Oh, great! I got my forgot to turn my notifications off, so that binging is me.
That's okay.
But yeah, I just sent him a text after the show on Wednesday and just told him I thought he was terrific.
Nice. And so, if we look at there was a great question that was posed when we recorded our episode the other night, kind of just recapping these episodes, and there was a great question posed about how the way Bob feels towards Adam. Is there any sense of a feeling of inadequacy almost because Adam became the big time cop that Bob was never able to become?
Yes, and I think one of the things we learned was this week was that all that stuff about I wasn't the first guy in the door because I wanted to come home and go to your little league games and all that kind of stuff. The first episode that we meet Bob, he tells that to Adam at the end, and that's all sort of taken at face value. And now we realize that none of that was true. He was at a bar stool making bad bets. It's yeah, I mean, people with bad habits tend to start building a world of lies around them and justifying their behavior. But they lose in the end, and he's clearly lost his son, sort of as his son. It's funny because in the first scene in this episode where I'm reaching for my wallet, I can't put down the $200 to. I hadn't seen Patty's reaction. All I saw was him saying, "Well, you're not going to pay for your own part." But there was a great reaction shot of him, like, "Oh, great, look at him. He's like reaching for his wallet. He's got deep pockets and short arms, and I'm going to have to pay for this." And then he goes in, and it was great because I hadn't seen that reaction before, and clearly it was, a son is like, "Oh, my deadbeat dad. I gotta, toe the line for him yet again."
Right, right. So this might be more of a question for Patty, but I do want to hear your take. Why do you think Adam became a cop? Was it to be better than his dad?
My guess is there was a time when Bob was his role model. Bob was his hero. I mean, you wear the uniform, you're surrounded, but you've got all the sort of pomp and circumstance of it. There was probably a time when he was a young lad that Bob was his hero. And then you go through the training and you become a cop, and then you start to see really what it is that dad's not doing.
Right, right.
Or what dad is doing that he shouldn't be doing. And so I think we all know, and we all know people who have to be parents to their parents, and it's a terrible, terrible position to be in. And it's, you feel the weight of it on Adam, and he's still always trying to cover for Bob, no matter how disgusted he is with Bob's behavior. But it's a bad position to put a child in, to have to be, and of course parents don't do it intentionally. They just do it because of their own, critical failings. But it's a really tough position that Adam is in.
Right. And that also raises the question of, do you think Bob feels remorse for what he did? I mean, he put his child in a terrible position, but again, he still had his cake and ate it too at the end of the day. Do you think he feels remorse for what he did?
I think Bob was absolutely filled with remorse for what he did, but I just don't know that that's going to fix the problem.
Right.
When things are that pathological, and have gone on for that long, I just don't know that he's capable of really changing. But people do. It does happen. So it's obviously he's a gambling addict, which is a relatively new development. And I mean, it's not a new development in the story. It was a new development as an actor. I didn't realize that I was gambling away all of my money. People get help for that, and they do get better. So I'm hopeful that that's possible. Anytime, where there's life, there's hope, and they haven't killed me yet, so there's hope.
Right. That's funny. So, and this was not the only relationship of Adam's that took a hit in this episode. We also saw the last scene where Burgess and Burzek had not a falling out, but it was not pretty, is what it was. And so I did read in your article with TV Insider, you had mentioned that you'd love to see Bob help Adam with his love life. Now, my question to that is, what could Bob possibly have to say that could fix Kim and Adam?
That was a quote that kind of jumped out at me, like, nothing. Well, I imagine in some alternate universe of Bob actually marrying the two of them at some point, like getting his act together and getting certified, getting licensed, and being some sort of kind of love doctor at the very end. Um, I don't. I mean, I that the falling out they had. I had some friends who watched the show and thought that he was overreacting to her reaction, but I didn't think he was at all, because that's, you're saying that was very, very close to an accusation of of executing somebody, of murdering somebody. Now, he did say on the way over there, it would be so much better if Barella were gone, and she could have held that up to him and made him answer for that, because that is a very good justification for why she thought what she thought. So she had her reasons, and I think his reaction really was justified, because that's a horrible thing for the person that you love and trust the most to think about you.
Right.
So I totally do understand that, and I'm not sure how Bob is going to help with that love life, but I just have some idyllic view of, they're under some trellis somewhere. Bob's marrying them.
Oh, that would be nice. That would be nice. So, well, yeah, and in order to
Playing
get
guitar
to
and singing a cheesy song.
the band from TV, and it's a crossover, and Jesse Spencer's there. Yeah.
Leave my love, I can't, whatever.
Perfect. That's funny. But yeah, in order to get to that point, there's got to be kind of a rebuilding of the trust that was lost between them. Do you think that they're capable of reconciling?
I 100% think they're capable of reconciling, but I think there would have to be proof. It's like, if your loved one is an alcoholic,
Mm-hmm.
can't trust them until they're in rehab. They're getting clean. They're doing the work. So Bob's going to have to do the work if there's going to be any kind of reconciliation. Or it's, we're probably just going to end up going down the same road again. But again, it's, people do get their lives together. It happens all the time. So
Right.
It can happen here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, one of our listeners did ask, and I mean, we can't escape it, but are there any plans to return yet?
I booked a ticket, but I don't have an episode. So no, I'm just making a joke. No. I would happily return. As of now, I have absolutely no idea what the plans are.
Okay. We had to ask,
Yeah. No, I know. It's the only person that knows less than me is me the day before it happens. It comes out of the blue, and then you make the trip, or you don't.
Right. So, and I mean, the last question we asked this of every One Chicago actor who comes on the podcast, because obviously we both love television. It's not just the One Chicago shows that we watch, and it is just such a good time for television. So we always want to know, what are you watching right now? What are you binging? What has your attention?
Finally just went through Queen's Gambit, which I love.
So good, right?
Yep. Dead to Me.
Okay.
Was addicted to that, waiting for that next season to come out. Trying to think what shows I've been binging. We went through a bit of a lull for a while there. I am not up to date the way some people are, I'm afraid to say. There's a lot. Name a couple shows, and I'll tell you if I've seen them. What are your favorites?
My favorites. Right now, I'm binging The Umbrella Academy. I don't know if that's. Well, wait. You have done work in the Marvel universe, so you might. How are you with superheroes? Do you like that kind of stuff?
It's not as an audience. Mm-hmm. It's not what I gravitate toward, but I end up loving some of them. Like the Iron Man and stuff. I don't love all of it. I'm not a universal. I don't like just flock to anything that is Marvel Universe or DC. But I will certainly watch them and often really enjoy them.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, with Heroes, for instance, that was the sci-fi world, but that's not the world as an audience that I put that in the singular, that I am necessarily drawn to. But it's about 3/4 of what's being made right now. So there's there's really good stuff being done with it, and all these actors are. What an amazing thing to sort of be a franchise. It's,
right.
It's a wonderful opportunity for actors, because then they can do one or two of those, and they can do whatever else they want. And
Mhm.
that is a fantastic luxury.
Right. So yeah, so I'm watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now, Umbrella Academy. Last year I watched The Americans, which was fantastic television.
Oh,
Also made my way through The West Wing finally 20 years later.
oh yeah, great.
Yeah, so I'm
That
constantly looking for different
Aaron
shows.
Sorkin is always fun to even just listen to, even if he,
The dialogue is
yeah.
just, yeah, incredible. And so I will ask you this about Heroes though, because I mean I remember, do you feel like that show might have been ahead of its time?
Um, well, yes, actually, it was kind of perfect timing,
Hmm.
really. Um, I think that, you know, that first season was, um, you know, just showed that it would that the world was ready for it.
Hmm.
It was a little bit on the back of X-Men, and it, you know, we were a worldwide phenomenon after a year, and then the show kind of unraveled. Um, uh, I mean, not entirely, but it just didn't, it couldn't maintain the first, you know, that first season.
Hmm.
It was always going to be a very, very difficult show to maintain. Just so many moving parts, so many characters, so many different, you know, sort of universes. And I think, it, you know, in some ways it may have been ahead of its time. I mean, but I think its timing was actually pretty darn good.
Hmm. Yeah, I loved that show. Loved it. So, well, great. Well, yeah. I mean, that's about all I've got. But thank you so much for your time today. This was wonderful.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.